Hey, today on episode 467 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast, Chrissy and we get a chat with Josh O'Neill. This guy's got a great story. He is the owner and the founder of the BeerdBus, which...
The BeerdBus. And I was like, when you told me about it, I was like, BeerdBus?
Yeah.
BeerdBus? Wait a minute.
No, so he does these brewery tours here in Utah. We're going to get into that in this conversation. We talk about how he kind of had this idea, how he found the bus, how he got it all ready to go. But the kicker was 2020 happened, like right when he was about ready to launch. But we're going to get into that in this conversation. So let's not give away too much stuff, though.
That's right. You got to have something to wait for.
Yeah.
But hey, guys, welcome to this podcast if you've never been here before. Welcome back if you have. I am Chrissy, and this is my fabulous husband, Chris.
Hey, and if this is your first time here and you're wondering what this podcast is about, this podcast, Chrissy and we're talking to the awesome people here in the Salt Lake City area. We're talking to business owners, artists, musicians, food truck owners, restaurant owners.
Yes, like so many interesting people.
We've talked to so many fun people throughout the year, and we're just here to highlight their story. We're here to showcase them a little bit, because a lot of times these people get neglected and kind of looked over.
Well, they're working hard and they don't get a chance to tell their story, so we really want to bring their story to you.
Yeah, and if you're looking to support the podcast, there's a great way to do that. SupportSaltLake.com. These are our supporters. Businesses that support us. And I know Chrissy actually had a really cool experience this last week.
Oh, I legit use our supporters, especially Dr. Matt Jackson, the Elevation Chiropractic. He is our amazing supporter and I would say pretty good friend. I mean, he and I were thinking we should just maybe run 2024.
For president?
I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm liking this. That's how awesome he is. I would be on a ticket with him, but I'm not a politician.
You know, I need to get over there and get my back
Dude, you really do. Every time I go there, I'm like, dude, I feel so bad that Chris hasn't made it over here yet, because Chris would feel so good. I mean, Matt, he adjusts you, he shows you everything that's going on, explains everything to you, and then he has a meditation room at the end of your session.
You've never told me about that.
Yes, it's especially the first visit, I believe. Oh my gosh, you have to go. It's so great. Matt is the best.
So yeah, you can find his link at supportsaltlake.com to connect with Matt on the website. It's Elevation Chiropractic.
Elevation Chiropractic, yeah, just down in Murray on 5400. Go visit him and go check out the rest of our supporters on our website.
All right, let's get into that conversation that we had with Josh O'Neill from the BeerdBus. This one's a good one, you guys, so you're going to want to pay attention to this one. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Let's get into it.
Just started watching, what is it, The History of Swear Words or something on Netflix.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I got the alert on my phone for that yesterday or 2 days ago, and I meant to tell you, Chris, like, I cannot wait. Is it good?
Oh, it's great. You're going to sit there and you're going to just want to like crush all of them. We had to be like, no, we need to go to bed.
Oh my gosh.
Be responsible.
We totally have to start binging that after we record, because I've been dying to see it. That's so cool.
I want to start right at the beginning with what even the BeerdBus is. I mean, let's share with the listeners, because I'm sure they have no idea what the BeerdBus even is, because you're brand new, right?
Yeah, we were supposed to launch on St. Patrick's Day. 2020 was going to be our soft opening, which was, in theory, perfect timing. And then 2020 was what 2020 was. So it was the worst timing you could ever think of. But it is what it is. We are Utah's first and only brewery tour bus. We do public and private tours. Essentially, in April 2019, my fiance brought me out to Denver for my birthday, and we did a walking tour. And that's when this whole idea came up. I came up with the name and everything else. I was like, Utah has great beer. But if you're not from Utah, that's not what it's known for. No one really knows that Utah has great beer.
But we should be known for that, because we have amazing beer here.
Yeah, we have really good breweries, but for some reason they're not openly discussed.
Not at all. Utah is known for Mormon having a bunch of wives and maybe the snow. But I lived in Denver before, and it was the craft beer capital of the United States at the time, and now it's really kind of exploded, and you got North Carolina and the Northeast, and just kind of everywhere has their own little beer scene. And that's known nationally. People who are into craft beer will name beers from kind of all over the nation, but Utah's just not thought of. So being someone who loves craft beer and has for a long time, I was like, how can I get involved and how can I help the industry? And really that's where it all came from. I was like, I want to start a business that is mutually beneficial.
Absolutely. That's awesome. What were you doing before this? I mean, like what's your background? What was your job before doing the BeerdBus?
So I've been doing project management for well over a decade in all sorts of different job functionalities, from manufacturing to construction. Then I was with Solar City and Tesla for about 4 years. And in January 2019, after the companies merged, there were layoffs after layoffs. I've dodged a shit ton of them, but then finally got my axe in January. So I was unemployed when I first came up with this idea. And then I got a job for a local construction company here in Utah. And then they ran out of money and I got laid off again at the end of 2019. So I was like, I'm so done with 2019. Bring on 2020.
It's got to be better, obviously.
Well, we were excited for it in the beginning, right?
We all thought it was the chosen one.
January and February were pretty great for me, at least. But so you're unemployed in January. This idea came in what you said, February or
about the same time, right?
About January-ish?
April.
Well, I thought
That's
you were.
when I came up with the concept and the name, and
I thought you were launching though with it. St. Patrick's Day.
2019
was
2019. when the concept happened. So you had kind of almost a year, like give or take a few months to kind of actually plan it out.
2020, I was like, you know what, let's take a look at this again. And I threw a survey out there to see if people would actually be interested. Is this only going to be like a tourism thing, or would locals be into it? Or how long would people want to do it? How many breweries? So really kind of tried to get feedback from the consumer on what they would want. And that really dove in and ran numbers and was like, this is a legitimate business opportunity. Let's do it.
So what was the response from the people that you were giving the surveys? I mean, I guess it must have been good because you decided to go. Yeah. You decided to go with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting maybe like I'd be lucky if I got 100 responses, and I had over 300, 300 or 400 responses. And a high percentage of it was something like 80% said they'd do it if they were traveling, like tourism, but they'd also do it locally. The majority was a 4-hour tour in 4 breweries, and under $80 was the like price point that people kind of felt that they wanted to do. It was, do we do longer and charge more, or like what can we do? So I went to that sort of level in my survey, and based off those responses, built out a business model off of that to see if it'd be a viable option. It was. So, and with that type of response, having 300-400 people actually take it, I was like, okay, that in of itself.
Yeah, I mean, getting people to give you feedback is literally the most challenging part of trying something new. I mean, even getting people to tell you what they want for some reason. So that's like amazing that you got that many people offering you feedback.
We're all busy.
How did you like take that from, by the time you're like, okay, this is a viable business model? How did you kind of proceed with it?
Foot to the floor and let's get shit done.
That'll work. That'll do the job.
Really just kind of ran numbers, was super conservative on my like estimates and that sort of thing. And originally was going to go on a much kind of cheaper route, buy a really cheap bus and something older. Like I have in my vision someday to have like a 1950s school bus that's all decked out and has even my bus right now have a big beard in the grill or something. But originally was going to try to do something cheap and be like, yeah, we'll just do this. And if it works, we'll upgrade later. And I realized that's probably not the bus is the business. So if it's breaking down with people on it, if it's a constant like maintenance thing.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Got something a little nicer. Found something in Colorado. Flew out, picked it up on February 29th of 2020, and drove it back, and had that goal of St. Patrick's Day.
You brought it back. You get it wrapped. You get it all cleaned up, right? You get it ready to go. I mean, none of us know that this whole pandemic thing is coming, right?
And I was literally rolling my eyes. Like, we had company meetings and they're like, we're planning for the pandemic. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And that was right about the same time.
Yeah.
And then the world changed.
So when the pandemic hit and when things started shutting down there, I mean, really on St. Patrick's Day, that's when the bars got hit, man. That's nothing. Everything shut down. Like, that was pretty much the day. Like, what did you do? Because you couldn't obviously operate.
Yeah, so I had already networked and partnered with my Salt Lake partners at that point, and they knew about me and were excited about me. And from that point on, it was really about supporting them, especially in the beginning of the pandemic. So I would drive the bus down and I would try to do as much social media stuff as I could to stir up my own sort of following. But really it was at the same time, more to support them and get people to go to the breweries, as well as going to the breweries myself, checking in with the partners, seeing, hey, is there anything I can do? Like, I know some of you are new and don't necessarily it's you doing everything. You're the brewmaster, you're the this, you're the that. You need a grunt man, like volunteering myself for whatever anyone needed, if they needed anything, and just trying to be there for their support and get the word out.
Were you able to use the bus at all? I mean, what kind of obstacles did you come across? Did you have the ability to take anyone to the breweries with you, or did you kind of just go help support them? And what was kind of your initial phase?
It was just me for a long time because I couldn't have people on the bus. And
that's what I was curious about.
Breweries weren't open, or if they were, it was to go only. So we had the eventual idea of the intention was to start the business in Salt Lake because there's just more people there and the conventions and all that sort of stuff. Get into following and then start doing stuff up in Ogden as well to get people out of Salt Lake and up to Ogden and Ogden down to Salt Lake, vice versa. But a lot of the breweries in Salt Lake still weren't open for actually being in the facility, just to go only, but Ogden was. So we started to transition and was like, okay, we'll start in Ogden because all of the breweries up there were open at that time. And then COVID hit some of the establishments up here and they had to close back down. So then I was back to square one. It was this year, 2020 was a lot of hurry up and wait. We did get some tours, which was good. A few public tours, smaller, but most of them that we have had have been private tours so far.
I mean, it's probably hard to even just get people to want to take tours in general right now, right? Like, cause I mean, I know how it is even for Chrissy and I, right? We're not thinking of doing those things right now. Not that we would love to go do it, but that's not on
even if they're
brain.
Available right now, it's kind of hard to find the information about things that you can go do.
Yeah, true. There's that too.
Yeah, and everyone from my experience, for the most part, would rather just err on the side of caution.
Sure.
Which I totally get and 100% support. I mean, even one of my brewery partners, he's done, before we even started and were operational, he wanted to take it, and all the other kind of breweries as well, like the staff and the owners, wanted to come on the tour to give feedback, and they haven't done it because they're like, we'll wait. Like I was talking to one recently. He asked his wife, let's do it. Yet. She's like, I want to, but so I get it.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. But what have you done to kind of overcome that and continue moving on through the year?
So I started working at a coffee shop just for my own sanity's sake and for
just to get out of the house.
Some sort of income. Otherwise, it's just kind of hurry up and wait. And I think once things do get back to some level of normalcy, the suspicion from kind of everyone is that I'm going to be more busy than I know what to do with.
I think that's very true because I'm like, okay, can we hurry up and go now?
Yeah.
Like, it would be really neat. I mean, Chris and I so people like us, we're an older married couple with 4 kids, and we would love to be able to go to do bar crawls and all things like that when everything is back open and normal. It's not quite as realistic for a lot of people like us. So something like what you're doing seems like the perfect opportunity for a lot of us who have felt very stuck at home and overly adulting this year to be able to go out and have some fun and not have to really worry or take too long. You know what to expect.
Yeah, and with the private tours kind of adds another layer of that. It's who you want to socialize and go out with, and especially right now, I'm seeing a lot more of that. But you also get the perks of, it's your tour. What music do you want? What do you want for this? What do you want for that? Potentially can pick the locations you go to, and I can pick you up and drop you off at a specific. So everyone's going to meet at someone's house. I can pick you up and drop you off there versus having to get downtown and meet at one of the front runner stops, whether it's Ogden or.
And then everyone has to find a place to park. Ugh.
All right, it's that time of the podcast. We're going to take just a couple of minutes and tell you about one of our awesome sponsors, UtahMarijuana.org. We've been talking about them for weeks now, Chrissy.
Yeah, because they're awesome.
And I hope everybody's going out and getting their medical cards. Hey, UtahMarijuana.org is your number one spot for all things medical marijuana, medical cannabis, CBD, and THC. I want to give a shout out to my co-host on my other podcast, Tim Pickett. You guys remember him from back in episode 420. Now I'm doing another podcast with him, Utah in the Weeds, but he's the guy behind UtahMarijuana.org. Such a great website. Go check it out. Their team of medical cannabis experts, they make getting your medical card super easy from your very first office visit to navigating the state card application and beyond.
And I want to tell you that, yes, they're amazing at helping you go through the process and initially get your card, just like I did recently, but I'm actually really excited for my follow-up. Like, I cannot wait to go back and sit down with the doctor who helped me so much. She gave me great advice, told me a book to get, and she really is going to help me narrow down exactly what will work for me. And I can talk about all my experiences, what's worked, what hasn't, and they're your friend, they're your guide to help you through that process.
And right now, they're offering an exclusive discount just for listeners of this podcast. If you use the code GREEN25, this is going to give you $25 off your first visit. So it's going to save you some money. It's going to tell them that you're a listener of this podcast and that you're wanting to support this podcast while you're getting your medical card. And if you're in the West Valley City area, check this out. They have a location for you. It's 3615 West, 1987 South, Building 8 in West Valley City. So depending on where you're at in the valley, they have a location for you. Go check out the website. Give them a call. Isn't it time that you took control of your own health? UtahMarijuana.org. Feel better.
So are you doing private tours right now for smaller groups that are interested in doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just had one a few weeks ago. I don't know. Time is all relative right now. Had one. It was a birthday party that had kind of gotten rescheduled a few times due to the different government mandates and everything. We had to postpone, but they did it. And like you were saying, people who adulted too much and just wanted to get out and have a good time. I think that was this group, and they went out and had a good time for sure.
How is it being the designated driver for a bunch of, I would say we're all a bunch of children who were forced to take care of things later in life?
And then get a few drinks in them, right?
Yeah, and then get a few drinks in them. And you basically have a bus full of toddlers.
Luckily, they're children that have been potty trained. Let's put it that way. Like they know what's right and wrong. To the point, they'll push the limits, but they're still adults in the end. I had a bachelor party, and those guys got pretty wild, but at the same time, we're real respectful. Like they had brought Monster energy drinks on the bus, and they wanted to make sure it didn't tip over and spill on the floor. And then they're also doing pull-ups and just being...
We're not animals. We're just children.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's been good. And I just try to like let everyone have a good time and encourage them having a good time and be ridiculous and be a smart ass. And I kind of judge the group depending on who I have. Some groups are really just interested in craft beer and want to know details and information and history, and I'll try to give them that sort of experience to whatever level I can. And other people just want to get shit-faced and have me drive them around and play music real loud, and I can do that as well. So
that sounds really fun.
How many people can fit on the bus? How many people does your bus hold?
14.
14, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's a good group.
That is a good
so
group.
I wanted it to be smaller and more intimate, and the idea is to, like, especially in Salt Lake, to personalize the brewery tour. In Salt Lake, for the public tours, you fill out a survey. What styles of beer do you like? And it could be 3 different groups of couples that or more that are on a tour. And based off of everyone's survey, I will determine where we go for that tour.
So do you do a survey before every tour to see what the entire group of people are interested in?
Yeah. At the booking process for Salt Lake, there's a survey asking the styles of beer.
Right on.
So if it's you like ciders, we're going to Mountain West, hands down. You like sours, we're probably going to Toasted Barrel and Shades. You like a stout and it's August, well, Keto's always has a stout, and depending on what other people have at that time of year. So I'll cater it to the beer style preferences.
Very cool.
That is very cool.
What would you give, like, let's say, because this is your first business, like entrepreneur business adventure, right? Like, is this your first time doing something like this?
Something like this. I've done some consulting before when I was in Colorado. I did some consulting. I had worked for a company that worked with a bunch of general contractors, and I've kind of cleaned up the program that I was with the company I was working for. And the general contractors were like, hey, can you help us make our business run like this? And just kind of be guiding. So at that point, I knew I was going to be moving back to the East Coast. I'm from New Hampshire, and I knew I was going to move back to New Hampshire like a year or 2 later. So I said, screw it, and quit and started my own thing. It was called consulting for my friends and GCs.
So what advice, based off of all that, and this is kind of a unique business adventure that you're on, let's say somebody listening is starting a new business of their own and they're looking for like a few tips. I mean, is there a piece of advice you would give them or anything?
Which is actually hugely common this past year.
Yeah,
most people we're all starting to branch out because we're realizing nothing is truly stable.
Be nimble. So there's going to be, you can do all the research in the world and think that you're prepared, and things are going to come up, whether it's business things or licensings or the extra things that you need, or a pandemic that comes and hits, and whatever it is, just kind of be nimble, be diligent, hang in there. If your idea and concept and model is solid, just keep going.
So you mentioned you're from New Hampshire. What brought you to Utah? What brought you out this way?
The snow, really. Love New Hampshire, New England. New Hampshire's greatest state in the Union.
My mom was born in New Hampshire. She grew up in New Jersey, but
nice.
Born in New Hampshire. So that's points, right?
Colorado. I lived in Colorado for a couple of years and then moved back east. Basically, I moved back east right when real estate went through the roof. So I kind of kicked myself in the ass for that. And it was just getting expensive back east. So I'm like, I can't afford Colorado anymore. I hear Utah's nice.
So you don't have any family here or anything, do you?
I have some extended family that before I came out here, I probably hadn't seen in 15 plus years. Like I knew they existed, but that was kind of it. So once I came out here, they really have become family, and it's been great to have that. But when I went to Colorado, I had nothing, knew no one, and was kind of my thing here. I knew a couple people from Tesla because they have a corporate office here, and I have some friends through that. So at least I knew some people here, and then my extended family as well. So I got pretty lucky.
Let's actually, before I forget, we need to mention you're doing like a GoFundMe, right? To raise some,
offset some of our startup costs.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about this.
So with our super conservative model, we would have had our startup costs paid off and everything at this point. So when we had started, we did some like 0% line of credit to get everything going, and then also got the bus loan and everything as well, instead of just buying something cheaper outright. So the GoFundMe is to try and offset some of those startup costs, because really all we've done is continue to spend money this whole time. I haven't had a month that's been in the green. Everything's been in the red, and new businesses are going to be that way. Your first year is usually not necessarily in the green, but where we were a lower overhead thing, we should have been okay and at least gotten that done. So we're coming up on our year and trying to just see if we can get some help from the community, so we're not getting hit with a bunch of fees. And
how can people find the GoFundMe? Because I'm on your website right now, and I swear there was a link on it on your website.
Yeah, so when you first go onto the website, it pops up.
So but if you X out it,
it's
okay.
So a video pops up when you first go on, and that'll bring you there. Also, there's a link in our Instagram bio as well to go to it. So
okay, and I'll put that link at iamsaltlake.com, the link directly for the GoFundMe. I mean, obviously, as well as the website, but that way people can get there. I
appreciate it.
Because I mean, I think it's important, especially right now. I mean, there's businesses closing, there's businesses, going out of business, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's important for us to support people like yourself. I mean, because it's people like you that make Salt Lake what it is, right? So,
yeah, and I've seen kind of the generosity of Utah and Salt Lake towards this industry already. Grid City, who's not a direct partner of ours, but someone who we have worked with, they were supposed to have the same soft opening as us. And they then had to kind of change their business model and direction. And they had a bunch of money to build this big, beautiful facility. And then they had to spend some of it to do other things for canning and pay their staff and things of that nature. But they have a rooftop deck in Salt Lake that's dog friendly. Who doesn't want that? And with being a brand new brewery, they were able to raise the funds to get that done. So they raised a whole bunch of funds without having a previous following before this pandemic by the people who would come in and to be able to give them that. So after seeing that and everything else, and I see it a lot this year, especially with the pandemic, of just communities kind of helping the people that are out there. So it doesn't hurt to ask. So why not ask? And if we raise more than our $10,000 goal, we're just going to continue to invest in the business and do things to better the experience. Like I would love to upgrade the suspension and put an air ride system in there, but I've essentially been advised, don't waste your money on a cheap system. They're like, we can take your money, but it's not going to help. But the system that goes in it is the same that's in fire trucks and ambulances, because it's such a big vehicle. And that's over $10,000 on its own. Just the equipment, not even installed.
Wow.
But outdoor speakers, underglow, add a beard to the bus, do things to increase the experience for the users as much as possible. So
where do you see this going, man? Let's say 5 years, where do you see it going? Your 5-year plan?
So what would be great is I'm busier than I know what to do with. Potentially get another bus or maybe some smaller vehicles as well. I'd love to expand it to go up into the mountains and offer stuff direct at ski resorts. Those are whole other loopholes. Park City is a question that's asked of me a lot. Not something that is on the roadmap for any time in the near future, but potentially. Park City is its own animal, basically.
Now, just out of curiosity, why didn't you decide to go to Park City versus like you decided to go to Ogden?
So Ogden has 3 breweries in Ogden and now 4. So when I first did it, they were 3 and now there's 4. So I can stick with the similar model. And I live in the Ogden area. So there, my heart is close to all of my partners. But if I'm going to go out I want a beer on a Wednesday, I'm not driving down to Salt Lake. I'm going to stay in my own neighborhood. So, and I wanted to try to help Ogden as much as possible.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's find out a little bit about Josh. We got a couple of questions. We like to find out about the people that are kind of behind these businesses. What are some of your other hobbies and interests when you're not drinking beer and when you're not driving people around in this brewery bus?
Basically anything outdoors. I ride bikes. I have a single speed road bike that I actually used in a mini triathlon and kicked ass in, which was pretty awesome. Mountain bike, I ski, I snowboard. This past year, got a rooftop tent for the truck, so trying to get into some of the overlanding stuff, kayak. Just a great state to enjoy all of those things. For sure.
Yeah, you do it all. It sounds like.
Yeah, this is the perfect state if you're outdoorsy.
Listen, we actually have a few Salt Lake City related questions that we ask everybody that comes through here, Jeff. So I'm going to ask you these questions. You're talking about outdoorsy Utah, so it made me think of these questions. When you have family and friends that visit you, which I'm sure you do, especially since you're from out of state in Denver, and they're like, give us the tour, show us around. I mean, where do you take people? I mean, I've heard so many different answers from, hikes or the mountains or downtown or certain places, buildings. I don't know. What's the Josh tour?
Get on the bus.
Yeah,
so
get on the bus.
Depends on how long they're staying out. But if they come up to my house and they're spending some time north of Salt Lake and with me, I almost always bring people over to Powder Mountain, which is funny because I've never skied Powder Mountain because my pass is at Snow Basin. But I bring them up there for the view. Just go out to that overlook road off to the side where they're building all those new establishments and wait for a clear day and bring them up there. And nothing beats that for the convenience and what you get. It's always the most breathtaking thing and people talk about afterwards. So that is always my go-to.
What about favorite local eating spots? It's another question we ask everybody that comes through here. Just because, especially Chrissy and I, we always look for new recommendations, but I'm sure our listeners would love to find out where Josh O'Neill likes to eat at in the area. And I know you mentioned even you're closer to Ogden. So what are some places even up that way, man?
Yeah. So in Ogden, when Rooster's B Street opened, that kind of had become our go-to. And then we kind of bounced between there and Utah. And now that Ogden River has opened, now we have kind of three breweries that have food to choose from. So kind of bounce between there. But Rooster's B Street was our go-to kind of before the pandemic because they just had the space and their naughty Brussels sprouts are just to die for. So
now another question we ask people is like, what would they change about Salt Lake City? Now I know you're not in Salt Lake, so let's even just say Utah. What would you change about Utah if you could? Is there anything, or maybe you're fine the way it is?
Coming from out of state, Utah has some weird laws and rules for sure, and especially
what are you talking about? We're so normal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the church seems to be so involved in that. That's a big kind of struggle for me and in general. But in regards to the brewery and beer scene, I know that Utah just raised their limit to 5%, which is good, but I think we're the only state that still has a limit. So it kind of speaks to our brewers that they can make such good beer, and a lot of them are offering it on draft and at that 5%. So it definitely speaks to our brewers and everything out here. But it would really just open things up to just get rid of it. Like, why are we still on this? And from my understanding, I think it was Epic had put some things up a while ago talking about how with this 5% stuff, when they changed that, they ended up taxing the breweries and stuff more. And
oh, wow.
It's a step, but it's like, let's just move beyond this. So.
It's like not quite a full step.
It's like, when can we grow up a little bit here in Utah, right? When can we be adults? We're past the teenage stage here.
Yeah, I know Ross talked about it on the Bewilders podcast that you guys did with him. You go anywhere else, the craft beer scene is so ingrained in the community to the point, if you're in Boston and you have 4 kids, and often it might be like small children and infants that they're carrying around the brewery, the kids can be kids, or you can have your kids with you while you're adulting and responsibly. People aren't going out as parents with kids to these breweries getting hammered type of deal. But breweries, from my experience, isn't really about that. The people that you meet at breweries are great. The experiences that you have, it's a different type of scene than at a bar.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. I'm holding out optimism that Utah will eventually realize it's totally cool, man. Let's get rid of the what's it called? The curtain.
Oh, the Zion curtain.
Zion curtain.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Dude, you got a great story, man.
Yeah.
You got a pretty cool story, like with this whole bus thing. I mean, I really hope nothing but success for you. I mean, and we should do like an I Am Salt Lake.
I was thinking that we need like a Patreon specific I Am Salt Lake tour. Like all of our Patreon supporters, get on the bus. Let's go have some drinks.
Yeah, but that's
eventually when things are back to normal, we actually, with the bus wrap design, we left spaces to have advertising and let people market their businesses on the bus. So the goal is to have some of our breweries and things on there, but which almost happened right before the pandemic. So I'm glad that I didn't take away some of those funds, but someday.
Very cool. Yeah. Now, how can our listeners get a hold of you, man? Like let's give all the website, all the social media, like let's give all that information.
So beardbus.com. So beer that you would drink with a D, bus.com, and at BeerdBus on both Facebook and Instagram.
Very cool. And I'll put all those links at iamsaltlake.com with this episode on the website. So that way people are driving, you didn't write it down, just go check it out at iamsaltlake.com. Now, Josh, is there anything, I mean, first of all, thank you for taking some time out of your evening and sitting down with us and recording with us. I mean, is there anything that you want to say or talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about? I know we kind of just skimmed the surface with everything, but what is there anything you wanted to talk about? Why the microphone's hot here?
Not really. I'm just glad to see another bearded wonder on the other side of the screen. You know, a lot of respect over there. So
yeah, I know. I feel spoiled. Yeah, I got 2 beards.
You know, sometimes I forget about it. You know, when wearing those masks all the time, I forget I have a beard, and it's been a wild year of forgetting I have a beard because
that is weird.
Because I don't see it a lot.
For you guys, when you're going out and about, people probably don't even know that you have a beard.
Yeah. So. And then I actually, you know, a few weeks ago, I burnt it on the stove. I didn't realize it was long enough to get down into the stove. We have a gas stove. And so I was making something on the stove, and
probably for a kid.
I thought my beard went up in flames, so I need to get it cleaned up a little bit there. But yeah, man, go check out the website. Everybody listening, go hire Josh. Let him take you on a tour of all the breweries. And we have Chrissy gives us a final question. I'm going to let her ask you the final question, Josh. Thank you again for doing the podcast, and we'll have to bring you back through and see what you're up to. You know, when things get back to normal a little bit.
It'll be really cool to see how when we can start doing things a little bit more frequently how you will expand and what you'll be doing.
Yeah, do a follow-up episode with everyone. Have a Sweet Vinyl come on and Bewilder.
Oh my gosh, like a post-COVID. Oh, I love that idea. That's such a good idea.
And we all know together, so we'll just have one.
There's the advice. I love it. This, honestly, though, before I ask my final question, I know I'm ranting, but this year has been really exciting for the reason that it's been really cool to talk to people like you who have the world kind of forced everybody to stop, and some of you have really jumped on it and pursued your dreams. And it's been really neat to see entrepreneurs like you thrive during this time. And it just goes to show that, you know, if you really, really want to do something, you can just keep at it. Like it's really cool. And I know Chris said thanks, but I'm super grateful for your story too. And okay, so now I'm going to ask you a question. If you could leave our listeners with a piece of advice or a life motto, what would you tell them?
Don't give up. Especially as you just kind of alluded with this year, it's one of those, it seems like one battle after another. But if you believe in what you're doing, just keep going. And what's great is I'd had a lot of my partners kind of tell me that and kind of reassure me that I was trying to be positive and stay positive. Sometimes you get a little run down and it's hard to continue having that perspective, but they've all given me the same sort of thing. So kind of reassuring that what I'm doing is the right thing and we'll get there eventually. So that's what I'd say to someone else, like, stick it out.
Hey, thanks again to Josh O'Neill for joining us on this episode of the podcast, episode 467. All of the links that we talked about on this episode can be found on our website. So if you didn't get a chance to write him down, if you want to connect with him on Facebook, if you want to take his tour bus out and say, take it out for a night on the town, you and
go have a girls' night out.
13 other people, because like you said, he can fit 14 people on the bus.
It's a great family activity once you're over 21.
Go reach out to him. IamSaltLake.com/467 for episode 467. All the episodes are there online. And while you're on the website, I can guarantee if you're listening right now, you have not listened to all the previous episodes. There's got to be 20 or 40 of them that you haven't listened to, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's no way anyone's listened to all of them, except for you.
And if I've listened to all of them multiple times.
I know. Good for you. You really know the people of Salt Lake.
Hey, but connect with us. Connect with the community. We have a Facebook group. IamSaltLake.com/Facebook will take you to the Facebook group. Let's get all the listeners over there. Let's
come hang out with us. Talk to us.
Come talk to the community. I'd love to know your thoughts.
We want more friends
on this episode. And become a supporter, Patreon supporter.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/IamSaltLake. These are, the frontline folks. It's kind of like an ongoing Kickstarter where they kick on over $1 or $2, kind of helps keep the podcast going. Right, Chrissy?
That's right. It's our little podcast family circle.
But anything else you want to talk about on this episode, or should we wrap this week up?
I am probably going to fairly wrap up soon to go back into my home office / toddler room where I get to pick up a lot of coloring pictures that we've been printing all day. I did want to throw that in there. Toddlers are expensive. They make you buy ink.
Yeah, so you guys have a great week. Get out and enjoy the city this week. Support local, and we're going to see you next week on the next episode of I Am Salt Lake Podcast.
And good night, Grammy.